I'm Kristen Robinson. I am so excited to be here hosting this first panel of ASCAP Experience today. I'm the music publishing reporter at Billboard, and today we're going to be talking with 5 of today's biggest hit makers in music from a wide range of genres and experiences and backgrounds. We're going to be talking to them about their unique roads to success. So get your pens and pads out. They're going to be dropping some knowledge. But first, let's introduce them. So first up, we have James Fauntleroy. Give it up for James. Hey. James is... Hello. So James is a 4-time Grammy-winning writer and producer. He co-wrote That's What I Like by Bruno Mars, On the Run by Jay-Z and Beyoncé, and so many more. Next up, we have Hitmaka. Everyone give it up for Hitmaka. All right, Hitmaka is a writer, producer, and rapper who has collaborated with Lil Wayne, Tamar, Braxton, Nicki Minaj, Dolla $ign, and a lot more. Next up, we got Sarah Hudson. Come on out, Sarah. Here she comes, and Sarah is a top liner, a vocal producer, a songwriter. She has co-written Dark Horse by Katy Perry, Levitating by Dua Lipa, and many other songs. Next up, we got Steph Jones. Everyone give it up for Steph Jones. Steph Jones is a multi-talented creator whose co-writes include Nonsense by Sabrina Carpenter, one of my favorite songs of the last year, and A Hole in a Bottle by Kelsey Ballerini. And then last but not least, we got Anna Warrenker. Sorry, Anna. Everyone give it up for Anna. So Anna fronts the incredible LA rock band That Dog, and she has scored or written songs for a slew of film and TV hits. This includes Yellow Jackets, Shrill, and Josie and the Pussycats. All right, so excited to get started here. All right, so I feel like we have to kind of start with, the definition of hitmaker. I feel like that in the definition of success as a songwriter, it can look so different when it varies from person to person and career to career. So I kind of wanted to start by going down the line and asking each of you, when was a moment when you really felt like you had achieved a personal level of success as a hitmaker? So James, I'm going to throw it to you first.
What, me first?
I know.
Wow. The first time I felt successful, I'd say was when I got my first big check. It was from ASCAP. Thank you. If you guys want to keep doing that, we can talk about that. But that was it. It was after my first big hit song. This guy walked up to me and said, "Oh, that's $1 million right there." I was like, "Get out of my face." I don't know this ridiculous claim, but yeah, man, that was it for me.
Love it. Yep.
I think for me it's probably when, well, of course I started off as a rapper, and honestly, I was such a young kid and I was writing and producing my records. I really didn't care nothing about it. I just wanted to party and have fun and girls and all the other stuff. So I didn't know I was really making hits. I think when I made the transition to just be a full-time producer, writer, and executive, that I really just went in the studio one day and was like, Hitmaker, and just said it before a song. And I ain't had no hits, and I ain't wrote nothing for nobody or whatever. I just said Hitmaker, and then from there, I'm like, I kind of like that. I'm gonna run with that. And then I came back to LA, and then I think, linking with Nicki Minaj, and I was able to do 7 records on a Pink Print album. That was the kind of solidified situation. I'm really in this and I'm playing at a high level.
I love that you kind of manifested being a hitmaker for yourself.
Everything in my life is manifestation, for real. Y'all got to do that all the time.
Yes. Love it. What about you?
I have a sort of 2-part answer to this. Literal success in the music industry, I'd have to say, was when I wrote Dark Horse with Katy and Luke and Max and Circuit. I had been, an artist, signed, dropped in a band, touring in my 4Runner, broke, living in my studio. I mean, I had been through this entire journey and having absolutely nothing, and then, getting an opportunity to write with Katy and Luke and Max at that time in my life was like, oh shit, like all of this has led to this moment. And I'm in a room where I've always felt like I deserve to be in this room. But now I'm actually here. And it's not even the song so much where I felt the, success as much as that moment of being in that room. And I was like, okay, let's play, let's do this. Like, I'm with the big dogs right now, And then just to be like a little cheesy, when I really felt like the true meaning of success was when I figured out that I was just like a human being doing human things and like playing with my dog and, doing yoga and like really just living my life. Like everything sort of came into this balance and I was like, oh, this is what it is. Like this is being successful when you're successful in life and in your job and, So yeah, that's my two-part answer.
I love that. And I'm really curious. I want to ask you, you're saying that you felt like success for you was when you were in that room working with all of those incredible collaborators on Dark Horse. Did you feel like that song was definitely going to be a hit? Did you kind of know that immediately?
I had no clue. I just was like, we wrote it fairly quick. And I remember driving home that night being like, oh my God, this would be so cool if this made her album. Like I really had no idea. And it was so different from the rest of the music she was making and the rest of the music she's put out. So I kind of just had no clue. I really didn't know. But now, the more you do it, you start to kind of know a little bit. You're like, this one feels not like the others, I don't know.
I love that. I love that. So Steph, what about you? What's a moment of success for you?
Probably for me would be working at a Starbucks in Austin, Texas, and finding out I had a song on The Hills. I was like,
oh my God.
I was like, oh my God, I love that show. I die for that show. I was like, I didn't know people could make money. I'm like, got $500. And I'm like, this is incredible. Like, I remember being like, I'm going to write songs. So, from The Hills, to now. So, I mean, it's kind of funny, but I mean, I'm just like about my business being a barista and something I had done years before that, just being the first thing to kind of like put me, I'm like a real songwriter, like overnight. Amazing,
I love that.
I love The Hills so much still, so.
I do too.
Yeah.
Anna, what about you?
I mean, success, you have to define it by what you feel it is. And there's two sides to it. There's the creative side and then there's the business side. And it always feels good to feel like you're earning a living doing what you love to do. But then it also feels really good when you just create something that you love and you can feel it, kind of piggybacking on what you were saying, Sarah. Like, you can tell when something is special. Doesn't mean everyone else will think it's special, but to me, I kind of had to, at a very young age when I started, figure out, am I doing this for the masses or for that feeling that could reach 10 people, and that matters too. And so I play somewhere in between all of that.
Yeah. And Steph, I wanted to kind of ask you about your varied career as a songwriter. You've written with a bunch of artists that I would not imagine the same songwriter worked with all of them. So you've worked in K-pop and country and pop. Can you talk about, is that something that comes really naturally to you to kind of be able to switch between genres, or do you feel like there's kind of a core identity at the center of all of those songs that you've worked on?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that, I signed my publishing deal in Nashville. So I started in Nashville, but my first, song on the radio was a pop song. So that I wrote in Nashville. So I thought, there's no boundaries here. And I think what I really love doing is connecting with artists, period, and working on concepts. So those two things is a constant for me. Working on concepts, being interesting, and really, getting to know an artist and finding what is special about them in that room that day, what is here for us to do today. So I think that my team knows I get the most excited when I get to do different kinds of songs, and I stay creative and excited when I mix it up. So, and just with my background and my upbringing, and it's nice to kind of pull from all these different parts of me as a person, and I get to do that in all these different genres too. So
Yeah.
it's just, music is all exciting. So I feel really lucky that artists from different genres like want to work with me. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
hope that answers.
It does. And I'm curious for all of y'all's responses on this, but Steph, I'll throw it to you first. You know, what do you feel like is your greatest strength in a songwriting room? What have you kind of learned? Like, is it concepts? Is it, you know, helping the artist kind of understand what they want to be writing about that day? What kind of do you
Yeah.
feel like is your strength?
I mean, the first thing that comes to me is something I kind of just said. I approach every day with, what is the best thing we can do today? I don't care about tomorrow. I don't want to write stuff that was supposed to be on this album. If we write a completely different sounding song, like with Nonsense with Sabrina, you know, that song wasn't going to go on the album. We had fun, and we just wrote what was in the room that day to write, and kind of took the work hat off and put on just the inspiration hat and allowed ourselves to just write what was in the room. So I think that's probably the greatest. And also when I'm with an artist, reminding myself, this isn't my song. It's theirs. So being able to pull that out of them, what they want to say, what makes them them. So.
Yeah, and I'm curious, Hitmaka and Sarah, y'all both came from backgrounds as artists. Was it hard to make that switch when you had to realize, like, okay, as a songwriter, what I need to bring to the room is whatever that artist needs that day? Was that a mental switch when working on songs?
I mean, for me, not really. See, the way that I kind of create, like I've been around a bunch of different situations. So I kind of came from like the Mike Karen school, to where it's like, yo, you get together with a few different writers and you sit in a room and you guys kind of flesh out joints. But once I had my own success and my own motion, I became like the vice president of Atlantic Records, and they gave me my own studio. And it was like, yo, you don't have to come in the office, don't do nothing. The studio is your office. That wasn't my thing. So my gift is that I'm really producing the producers. It's like twofold. I produce the people that I co-produce with, and I produce the songwriters, because the vast majority of my songs is not like I get with an artist and it's like, yo, you're working with such and such today, let's go make a joint. Like, I'm really coming in with the demos already. Like, all my songs are demos that I've just created in a factory of studio going every day, 6 days a week, and then I just go present the demos to the artists and they cut them and make them their own.
So you're making the art
Yeah, pretty much.
to present to them, really.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
For me, I think that, I just think we're all artists. I know that, obviously there's artists that go out and perform the songs and are in the public eye, but, we're just as much artists. We're all creators, we're all artists, So I think I adopted this sort of mindset of like, I think when I got to a point of really working on my artist career and getting dropped and signed and dropped in bands and broke and all this stuff, I was like, I got to a point where I was like, what do I really want? Why do I really do this? Like, do I want to be famous? No, I don't. Like, sure, I love speaking and being and sharing myself with people, but that's not really my motivation. My motivation is creating and writing songs and making music, and that's my art. So I think I just got to a point where that just made sense to me, and I was like, okay, let me try to write with some other people and see if I can be their muse and help them, help them with their vision. And so I don't know, it kind of all meshed into one for me, and was a very natural transition for me.
Got it. And circling back to my previous question, James, what do you think is your greatest strength in the writing room?
Swag. Unbridled swagger. I think that probably my number one thing is taste level and just knowledge of music in general. I notice all the best collaborators I've been in rooms with were also people who are like have like encyclopedic knowledge of music, and so with some people I'm sitting there pretending like I've heard of 10 songs I never heard in my life, but for the most part, when I get in a session, not only are we able to have a conversation about, you know, like what the best qualities of you know, like proven hit songs are, but also there's just swag level, like I said, just a certain swagger.
I love it.
You know what I mean?
What about you, Hitmaker?
To me, well, echoing what he said, to me is just more so like taste level and just knowing like, and not being afraid to just to dive out there and just say things. I think that a lot of creators and songwriters, like, they'll overthink a lot of different things. Like, I don't think about shit. Like, if the first melody, like, to be honest, like, even when I'm working with people and co-writers, like, it's usually, we can do 5 to 7 different takes on a melody. It's more than likely the first one that came naturally and authentic to that person. So, like, I'm able to grab that, cut it up, Benihana it up, yo, this is the hook, yo, and 2 minutes in, that was the bridge, this, that, bring it back, and then write the records with someone. So basically providing a structure and just knowing, you know what I'm saying, like how to facilitate and execute and bring it all the way home. I think that's what the true definition of a producer is, just the execution process.
Love it. Sarah, what about you?
I mean, not to, you know, echo, that was just the best answer. Like an energy, like he said, a taste level, a good vibe. Like, I'm all about vibe right away, reading the energy of the room. How do I need to make this the most, like, easy, flowy, comfortable, cool, fun situation? What personalities am I dealing with? Like, I always take, like, an assessment, and, like, I really, like, work the room like that, you know? And making people feel comfortable and not having an ego. There's such a difference between believing in your idea and operating out of ego. And I'm telling you, ego kills collaboration to me. Confidence is one thing. This is dope. This idea is dope. I believe in this, but you want to try something? Go ahead, let's do it. We're collaborating, you know? But that ego to me, like, kills the session, kills the connection. So I think that's really one of my strengths, is bringing that energy. And then I also think, like, you know, conceptually and like overall picture of a song, I like to go visual and I like to go to worlds, you know? So I think I'm good at creating that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Anna, what about you? What do you feel like is your greatest strength in the session?
I mean, I totally agree with both of them. I think a lot of it is about taste, and just the first thought is the best thought, usually. There's a time and a place to belabor over something like lyrics or different parts. But I mean, if I was really going to narrow it down, I like to read the room also and figure out, where am I necessary and what do we need to do here and what would be fun and nice. And for younger artists, I've always felt like, you know, to go out and promote a song that you don't feel 100% about is a bummer. And so I always try to figure out, like, what is it that would be great for you to get behind, that you could, like, really live behind, and figure out what that is. And try to make it somewhat personal, because I think that that's always a nice way to express yourself.
Can I say one
through
thing?
songs.
Yeah.
I think it's also smart when they know to take your ass home, like go home. You know what I'm saying? Like when it starts feeling like work and like you're creating music and it feel like you're doing a job, like that's kind of like my cue to get up out of the studio. Like I can't expect someone to have fun to a song that I'm not having fun creating. So
That's
like
true.
you just got to know when to inject as well too.
That's good.
I mean, I've found that, like, I've done a lot of theater work and television work, and that is when you kind of have to put the grind on, particularly in theater. Like, you've got to get those lyrics right, you've got to get those changes right. And in composing, it's like you're doing it to someone else's picture, which is kind of like doing it to someone else's track, which I love the challenge of. So there's a time and a place for it, but when it's not fun, it's not fun.
Yeah.
And then that usually comes through.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that, Anna. Can you talk more about your journey getting more and more into composition and working with film and TV?
I mean, when I did my band years ago, and that was just not for me, being an artist. I mean, I love being an artist, but the life of being a touring musician and trying to make it and be famous and all of that stuff, like Sarah was kind of saying, like, it was not for me. And I knew I was a writer, and I knew I loved picture, and I loved music. And so when I first left the band, I immediately got asked to do a television show. And so I kind of did a boot camp of learning how to do that overnight and become an engineer and become a producer and all of these things all in one. And, you know, throughout the years, I kind of bounced between all of those things. And then I kind of decided I really wanted to focus on composing, and so I did, and luckily that's been a good choice.
I love that. I love that. Hitmaka, I wanted to ask you a little bit about how important you feel it is for songwriters and producers to understand the business.
Yeah, I mean, it's super important because ultimately, like, you could work your ass off and then be in a bad business deal or be in a bad situation to where you won't reap the benefits of that. So I think that as much as you educate yourself on the music, you should also always, like, if you're not trying to be super educated, I would hope that you would, but the best thing to do is to put a great team around you and just different people that can, great lawyer, you know, a great manager or someone else that could guide you in the industry and kind of like position you in different ways. I was blessed to have like great team of people, whether it's Ryan Press and different people that's in the industry that are really great mentors to me. So I think that you got to invest in that. You got to like somehow find a way to still be creative, but still tap into the energy and understand what the publishing deal is, what an MDRC is or whatever, like all just different things that come with the situation.
Yeah, and what can an emerging songwriter do to learn more about publishing?
To me, don't sign a publishing deal. Just wait, you know what I'm saying? Like, even if you like, I would say eat them oodles and noodles, you know what I'm saying? As long as you can, like, and do whatever you got to do because, you know, a lot of people look at an initial check or whatever and think that you're going to figure everything out once you get the check. It's like, yeah, you're going to figure out that you got a lot more work to do to get out that deal, you know? So I think the most important thing is to not do it. And then once it's time for you to actually do it, to have the right lawyer and structure your deal correctly.
Got it. And I wanted to talk a little about how I feel like the top of the charts right now, we're oftentimes seeing songs that have samples and interpolations more so than ever. Is that something that is like, you know, in the songwriting room, is that something that's usually coming from the songwriters? Is it coming from executives suggesting things that you can work with? Has anyone had any experience with working with, you know, that kind of?
I don't know, I'm kind of like 60% of that problem. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like.
He's the guy. He's the guy.
It's
like
not
a new
new.
thing. It's been pretty consistent. But go ahead, you are the expert.
You the expert. I kind of like concise. I was like, yo, I'm gonna be the Puff Daddy of this generation. I'm gonna go and flip every song I grew up on 106 and Park with, and like I really went and did it. Like, and then it was like, well, damn, like a lot of people is fucking it up now because now this is popular and now they're watering it down and they're doing it might not be in the contact, but. I don't know, like I'm part of that problem. I am like the guy that's like flipping all the songs. I'm sorry, you know, but you know, I'm on to something new.
Yeah,
now.
so that's where it's coming from.
But that's dope. Like sometimes it calls for that, and that's cool. Like we want to feel nostalgia, you know, and something familiar with something new. And I don't know.
We're
love
honestly
it.
all doing that. Like there's only so many notes. There's only so many progressions. Everything we're doing is coming from something we heard and something that we're flipping and mixing into something else. So it's the same thing. It just gets complicated, but you know, that's why you got to learn the business.
Yeah, for sure. So how did that start, Hitmaka? When were you kind of like, I'm on to something here with kind of the idea of flipping? And
I knew once Diddy blocked me on all social media.
Stop! Oh my god!
Yeah, I was like, I'm like, this shit is working. Like, yo, it's really hitting the culture now. But me and Diddy, we cool. You know what I'm saying? We passed that. But like, man, like that was the moment for me where I was like, whoa, like, damn, it's working.
I oftentimes talk with songwriters and hear over and over again how difficult it is to get paid well for a big song in the streaming era from streaming specifically. But a lot of people will mention to me that kind of the real payday for a songwriter these days is getting a song to radio. And I wanted to talk to you about that. Can you tell me a little bit about like what the difference is between having a song that does well specifically on pop radio versus one that's done pretty well on streaming?
Well, the revenue from streaming comes from subscriptions, and the revenue from radio comes from ad buying. The ad buying market is just a lot bigger than the subscription model, and so there's just a lot less money for us. Because speaking of knowing the business, you guys should learn the difference between mechanical royalties and publishing royalties, because I think the rate for publishing right now is 9.1 cents. Maybe it goes up every couple of years, a few decimal points. But the rest of the dollar of that 9 cents is going to the mechanicals. That's the ownership of the master, etc. So the people who are owning the music, they're making astronomical amounts of money from streaming revenue. But as far as publishing is concerned, the 9.1 cents we're getting from the sales equivalent is like, Cheeto money from streaming services. And it's, quite different from radio, or sometimes film can really be a big payday for a songwriter. Ooh, boy. But other than that, it can get tough.
Yeah. Sarah, what was your first radio hit, and what was kind of the difference between like that kind of an experience from other songs that you had written previously that had done well?
I would say Dark Horse was definitely my first like very lucrative radio hit. Before that I had I was doing mostly my artist stuff, but I had some cuts, in a movie or a sync or things like that. And that money was okay, but yeah, I mean, the radio is like, and it's like, I don't know, streaming is really ruling everything, but like the radio is really what we have to bank on to, make money. Like it's insane. And it's very rare to have a massive, radio hit. And obviously it's incredible, but it's rare. So there's a lot of songwriters that, are really struggling, and I don't know though, it needs to change in some way. I don't have the answer, but yeah, for me, Dark Horse was definitely my first big radio moment of like, whoa.
Yeah, for sure. Steph, you've worked with Blackpink, which is just like such a gigantic international success, and also they have such a rabid fan base. What was it like to kind of work with a group like that? Was that a different kind of experience in terms of the way that the audiences reacted to the song versus what you normally see with American artists?
Yeah, I mean, that was my first K-pop song. We did a song called Love to Hate Me for them, and we actually wrote it for Lil Mix, which is they're a band, a girl band in the UK. We were in a camp writing for Little Mix. But they also were supposed to have New Rules by Dua Lipa, so they're pretty much well known for passing on songs that go on to be more successful.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
Damn.
We were writing for another girl group, and so I didn't have, Blackpink wasn't a dream in my heart yet. I loved how pop and how fun they were, and I saw them live, and I was like, this is the craziest stuff I've seen. But, that was a really interesting process. And when it came out, I mean, overnight I was seeing the streaming, especially. I was like, how are there this many streams on an album? Like, it wasn't a single. So pretty wild difference, from even, being around the fans. Like, they'd show up, when we were just like cutting new vocals for it, or, it was like a really cool, like crazy kind of world around K-pop artists, and the fandom of that is like really incredible. So very different to me from a lot of the American artists that I've worked with, and they have big fans and everything, but they will find out where you're eating lunch and, you know, just because they think you're working on their song that day. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So pitch records are kind of like, historically have always been so important in music. And I guess for those who don't know, songs that are created by songwriters and then pitched out to various artists. And Steph was kind of touching on that earlier. I am wondering how common are pitch records today? How commonly do you guys work on them? James?
Man, I have ASCAP, you guys can verify this. I have like 300-400 different songs that have been released. And of those hundreds of songs, I successfully pitched, I'll say, exactly one song ever. And so my entire career, which is, it's not super uncommon, but it's pretty rare. I've just never pitched a song successfully in my life. So I can't really tell y'all about that. I can tell you guys about being super cold, but not how to pitch a song. So, I mean, one reason I bring that up when I'm talking to people about music is so that people know that that's not the only way to get your song sold. And so, that's all I really have to offer on the pitching front, honestly.
Hitmaker?
All my songs is pitches for real.
Come
for
on,
real.
baby, I need to go hang out with this dude.
I mean, it started as, people kind of like connecting the dots and whatever, management and A&Rs or whatever. But once I was able to get inside the building at Atlantic and get in and develop my own relationships with these artists, I don't know if it's more so pitching, but like right now I'm doing Chris Brown album. So like I'm just texting his phone every day, 3 different ideas. He'll go, exclamation point, send them the files and things of that nature. Or if I want to do a song like maybe like Baddest for Young Blue or whatever with Chris Brown on it, we had this song and then speaking of radio stuff, like it was like top 10 on radio for the whole year, like for the whole 52 weeks. And that record was just something that kind of was made on the spot, and I was able to hit Chris. Had the right demo on it, the guy that always does the demos for me for Chris, and I hit him, sent it to him, did it, sent it back, and the song was done, and the video shot out in like a week or 2. So,
Wow.
One of the top of the vibes.
Wow. So for you, pitch records have been kind of the bedrock of everything.
Yeah, for real.
Interesting. What about you?
It's like really both for me. I work really well with artists, and I think that's how I've had a lot of my success, but also I have certain groups of people that I work so extremely well with. Like, for instance, there's a songwriter, Jay Hart, and a producer, Jason Evigan, and it's literally the 3 of us. We wrote a song. Troy Sivan ended up doing it. It was a pitched song. Then we got back together. We wrote another song. Illenium ended up doing it with John Bellion. We got back together, we wrote another song, 5 Seconds of Summer did it. Like, we got back together, and then Maniskin. Like, we literally have this streak of, we have this thing, when we write and we pitch it, it connects. So it's both for me. I just have such like a creative experience with those people that I think you can feel the emotion in the song, and I think that's like the art of a pitch song. It's like, are you really feeling it? Is it really real? Can you relate to it, But most of my sort of fruitful success is when I'm in the room with an artist, because, that's really like the best pathway to getting that song sort of cut as a songwriter, because you're connecting, maybe they'll want you to come back. It's like a relationship you build, But I really don't think the art of pitching a song is like totally dead. I just think it has to be an amazing song,
Yeah.
So.
And when you're creating these pitch records, like you're saying with your 2 other collaborators, do you have someone in mind kind of that you would like to pitch it to first? Sometimes, but sometimes we're just like, we have a thing, let's go write, and it'll find its home, I mean, it varies, it really varies for me. Steph, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my career has been based around both things pretty strongly, but mostly kind of like Sarah, being in the room with an artist is where I feel like my strength is personally. And but you know, I've like done like the end title for the Cruella movie that came out a couple years ago, and that was, you know, because someone just sent me a track and I tried something and I was like, this sounds like Florence and the Machine would be cool on it, you know, and they're like, oh, the, you know, composer's like, let's try that. So, you know, I really enjoy working in different ways. I think that pitch records are still really important. My first pitch record that was one of my favorites was a song on a Pink album like 2 albums ago, and it was just incredible because we wrote that song that I wrote with my friend Teddy Geiger and Sasha Sloan, and you know, we wrote that day thinking it was for Sasha, and you know, at the end of it, someone ended up playing it for Pink, and she called Teddy and said, I don't think you get it. Like, we made up some ages and some stories in the verses that we thought were just kind of arbitrary. And Sasha was like, this didn't really happen to me this way, but it sounds good, let's say it. And Pink called Teddy and was like, you don't get it, like, this is my story, this is my song. We wrote some things that were very specific to her without knowing it, you know? So sometimes they find their own way, even if you're writing with an artist. Mm-hmm. So I still definitely believe in the pitch song and just writing what is there to write that day, because you just don't know. I didn't know I was writing her story. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Wow.
Also, sometimes if you're writing with an artist, like Steph said, and it doesn't end up being for that artist, it could connect with someone else. Like for me, Katy Perry and I wrote Black Widow, which later became Iggy Azalea and Rita Ora. And it was for Katy initially, and then she decided, I don't want this on my album, you know, and then it became, you know, a hit with somebody else. So it's like you never really know. I wouldn't rule it out, personally.
I mean, I will say the funniest thing that ever happened with a pitch song is I wrote a female country ballad. This is just to show, like, you just don't know. I wrote a female country ballad with somebody that became a Nickelback song. And I got that call, and I was like, put it at the top of my bio.
That's amazing.
And, like, I don't, like, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
You know? Anyway.
That's fantastic. Anna, what about you? Have you worked on many pitch songs?
I mean, yeah, throughout my career, tons. I love an assignment, you know, so that's always been fun, but sometimes that takes the, kind of can suck the energy out of the writing session. I mean, I've been a little bit out of the loop for the past 5-7 years doing composing, so which is constantly pitching ideas, but in a different way. So I feel like maybe the rhythm has changed a little bit about pitching, but I don't know, maybe I'll get back in, find out.
And when you're pitching songs, does that allow the songwriters in any way to have like more, like better splits or more control? Like, is it good to have something pitched? Everyone's like, absolutely not.
That was hilarious to me.
That's what you would hope. And maybe that's what would happen sometimes, but a lot of times, you know, artists want to put their little in there. Their flavor and their percentage.
Yeah. That's the only
Which
place
is
to put
cool.
the flavor.
Which is literally fine. Like, who cares? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Sometimes.
Some people, yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. It's sometimes it's
Sometimes you got to put your foot
Yeah,
down.
like
Yes.
if you a big artist like that, then yeah, like
Go for it.
take some publishing for the record, but as
Yeah.
far as like a new guy or a new girl, that's kind of like a little crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if someone's just covering your song, and then they want credit, you know, they want some
Right.
writers for doing that. And that's not okay.
Anna, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about your film and TV work.
Yeah.
And the state of film and TV right now seems very up in the air. We have the writer's strike going on. It seems like a lot of the studios are going through budget cuts. What does that mean for musicians who are working in that space?
Well, it means we're not working. Frankly, I needed a small break, so I'm trying to just appreciate it. But there's been so much amazing work done in film and TV since streaming, and it would be, having come from the music industry, when streaming started, it was like no one knew what the hell to do. And so now I see that TV and film are kind of going through that, and so because I'd kind of ridden that wave already, we'll find it. We'll find our way. But I have a lot of faith in the creativity because the material has been so good. There's so many great shows and movies now that are getting produced. So let's just, keep that going.
Yeah. And we have about 13 minutes left, so I kind of wanted to start moving towards some advice that you guys could give. I'm sure there's a lot of emerging songwriters, people who want to be up here someday. So I'm going to go down the line.
Don't suck, oh my God.
Besides don't suck, what is your advice to emerging songwriters that you would want them to know? Is there
One thing because we were talking earlier, I've done about 700,000 panels now. And the most common question or topic I hear people talking about, aside from just how do I get into it, is about networking. And I recently saw somebody really explain it really well, that when you're talking about networking as a beginner, that means networking with people that are on your peers. So like after these things, I'm sure everybody up here has had at least 1,100 people come and say, hey, I want to network with you, which basically means I want to be your friend and get a favor from you, even though I don't know you at all. And I have nothing to offer you either. And, that's just totally insane, guys. You know what I mean? Like, just number one, totally, fully crazy. And that's okay if you didn't know that until just now, but just in the future, there are people on the earth that will find you and just want to help you, and that exists on this planet. But for the most part, if you walk up to somebody and you're just asking them for a favor out of the clear blue sky just because you happen to be in front of them, that's not giving them a lot of incentive or to even check out what you're talking about. So as far as networking is concerned, that's something you guys do with each other. You give each other all your CDs and things that you want to give us after this thing. That's the first thing. And then the second thing to that same point is it's really that people like us, executives, artists, they're looking for you. You know what I mean? We're all looking for the new Katy Perry and the new this person, and we're all looking for the new person. So if you're not sucking, like we started here, then the people around you will hear your music. The people around them will hear your music. Like so much of our business comes from word of mouth and from people hearing a song and saying, oh, I love this, I love that. That's how you get in the room with the people that you are typically trying to network with. So just remember that when you're networking, that means people that are to the side of you, and as far as people that can offer you something, make sure you have something to offer. You feel me? You feel me? Thanks, baby.
Nah, I totally agree with what bro said. And then also, man, just staying ready so you don't have to get ready, because I think a lot of people somehow drop the ball or fumble when they actually are in that room and have talked and put so much energy on getting in the room. It's like once you get in the room, you got to show up and show the fuck out. Like you got to go crazy. Like, so I think that part of that. And then also more than anything is that, man, like just know, man, if you write one hit, you can write another one. You know what I'm saying? You just got to keep pushing your pen throughout the whole process, and you'll ultimately get to us. Because like he said, like a lot of my relationships with co-writers and co-producers was just based on somebody that was my friend had somebody in here. You know, like, oh, you know, he cold too. And I'm like, oh, for real? And I just throw him in the booth, and then something happens. A lot of my placements I've had with different co-writers as well. It's just been like first time meets, which turned into a long time of collaborating where we at right now.
Amazing. I'm really gonna try to keep, there's so much I want to say. I'm gonna try to keep it concise, but I'd say the first thing is really ask yourself, you know, if you can handle rejection and transmute rejection into something positive and into something motivating, because it's literally a daily rejection. daily. Like, it doesn't work, no, it's not right, no. Even when you're at this level, we all deal with it. And it's like, it isn't, it's just the way of this business, it's just how it goes, you know? And if you can get back up and keep going and really move past that energy, you'll hit that one spot, you know, that one thing that won't be a rejection. But I think ask yourself if you can mentally, emotionally, spiritually be okay with that. I've never said that before, but like it just came to me, and it's so true. The other thing is, this is not life and death. It feels like it is because we're artists, we're creators, we live our job 24/7, right? We're always thinking, we're always creating, we're always emotional. But you have to, at some point, find a balance and be a human being in your life and like go to a museum, go hang out with your friends, go pet your dog, go write in a journal, go read a book. Like, you have to live your life in order to be able to create. And I think we get so caught up in this shit, like, it's life or death, and if they don't do the song, like it's this big fucking thing, you know? Sorry, I don't know if I could say that, but... And it's not like, don't be so precious, throw it away, go create, then go to the museum, then go create, then go here. You know, like, don't be too attached to it. I really just needed to get that out. Yes, thank you. I'm telling myself that too, by the way. So.
I feel that. I feel that. For sure. Now, and to piggyback on that, I mean, there was an author I read once that said that she speaks to her creativity like a person, and she says, I will never make you provide for me. I will always provide for you. Ooh. And that is something that has stuck with me for so long. We put this big demand on this well that we have inside of us, but what are you doing to fill the well? That's something that I just sit and think about so much, because we're talking about, right, like, money and what money you make for, you know, we've written hit songs, that's why we're sitting here, but at the end of the day, even before any of that happens, like, get to your why. Why am I doing this? And feed that well. And also, I think the best thing that you could do is sit and figure out what makes you the best writer in the room, and really know that about yourself. Know what is so good about what you do and what you bring to the world. And that way, when you walk into a room, you're like, you know what? I'm going to be the best lyric writer. I'm going to have the best concepts and work on all of it. But find what, like, the same thing I would say to an artist is, like, what makes you special? We have so many voices. We have so many songs. There are so many, like, we look at the streaming. I mean, I can't even keep up with the new stuff. So what is it about that you're doing that's going to cut through and really bring your message into the world? Like, what is that? I think that's really important, too.
Yeah, I love that quote. That's amazing.
Big T, big T.
I can't top anything that they said, so I'm going to go the practical route, which is, you know, you definitely prepare yourself for a lot of rejection and know that you will recover, you will be okay, and that muscle will strengthen. Know about your business, know what money's coming in and how, and try to wrap your head around that. I find that the people who ignore all of that end up losing it. So be on top of your stuff and create an environment where you can flourish with a team or other writers or producers and artists, and know what your goal is. If your goal is to be famous, then figure out how you can do that successfully. If your goal is to be the best writer in the room, figure out how you can be that. And it's okay if you have to supplement your income another way while you're figuring all of this out. There's no shame in that game. So there's all kinds of ways to become successful as a writer, and get out of your own way.
All right, so we have a couple minutes left, and I figured we could maybe take one audience question. So does anyone have anything?
It's got to be the best one.
I know, no pressure. Okay, you here in the front, project.
I
I love short songs, dude. I'm the wrong person to ask, but Frank Sinatra, baby. You check out all those Sinatra jams. That's how I excuse my extremely short songs, personally. He asked how we felt about 1 and 2 minute songs, guys.
I started out with punk rock, so I love them.
Yeah, dude.
I am a bridge queen.
Oh, I feel you on that.
I love bridges, sorry. I just do. It's the moment to be, you know, totally different from the rest of the song. So cool, whatever, 1, 2 minute songs, like, yeah, it's fine, but I don't know. I'm a bridge queen.
I think it all has a place, you know?
Yeah.
Do whatever you feel. And also, I love a lullaby, I love a kid's song, and that sticks with me as long as I live, and they're pretty short too, so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like a part of like us getting out our own way, because like the way we see a certain song or whatever, like, cause I love bridges too, like, and I'm just like, man, we gotta bring bridges back to R&B music, bring bridges back on the radio.
Nobody wants to write up, nobody ever wants
I
to
love
write a
bridges. I
bridge.
think we all love,
Yeah.
writers love bridges.
There's no third rap verse no more. But so, I mean, it's kind of confusing, because it's like you could work and do all this work and then go write the bridge, and it might not perform as well as like Little
Right.
Pump, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang. Like you'll see a song be like 45 seconds and then be like, oh shit. And then some executive that doesn't make music inside a building say, you need to do that because they're gonna restream it. It's replay value. I'm like, no, if the song is good, it's replay value. Like,
Yeah,
what the fuck are we
exactly.
talking about, bro?
Seriously.
Then it's like a song like Levitating, you know, I'm feeling so electric, dance my ass off, and I want it, like that's the bridge. It's one of the best parts, in my opinion. So it's like, and that song's definitely not 2 minutes, but you never know, you know? I think it's just what the song calls for.
Yeah, exactly.
I think TikTok messed that up too, because I'd be confused, like, cause some shit will go viral
Literally.
on TikTok and it'll be like 3 minutes into the song. I'm like, yo, where the fuck is the part that I really love that I've been seeing on
Literally.
Instagram already? So, I mean, it's in the air, man.
Oh my gosh, well, thank you guys so much. Give it up for these guys right here.
Thank you!
All right. Hope you guys have a great day here at the ASCAP Experience, and we'll see you later.
Thank you.
Thanks.